waking the neighbors up when you pull in your driveway typically starts with the power under the hood. But this week, it was actually the exterior color. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Robertson. Now, specifically behind me is the all-new 2019 Volkswagen Arteon. And basically, I spent about half the week trying to pronunciate the name, but also getting used to this color. So there's big two things to talk about before we get into the nuts and bolts of this vehicle. First, how to pronunciate the name. Well, it's Arteon. AR is kind of separate from the T-E-O-N, so Arteon. The second is this exterior color. Now, it pretty much is a yellow, but there is a funky name that goes before it. I can't pronunciate that either, so let's call it yellow, gold, mustard, whatever. But what I like is it sets the tone for this week's test drive, because after all, the Arteon is a new offering over at VW, and it really is separate from the rest of the lineup. Basically, the other VWs I've mentioned are somewhat straightforward, plain Jane, don't go outside the comfort level. But this certainly does, certainly with its overall wideness, its platform, its sleek roofline, and pretty much, well, adds a wow factor where otherwise there just isn't over at VW. Grille warfare always stands out in my mind when it comes to design elements, but here on the Arteon, I'd say it plays second fiddle because really every angle of this vehicle is spectacular. First off, from the profile, and where it stands out is in its overall size. First off, around about 191 inches in the upper size segment when it comes to midsize. Wheelbase stretched at about 111. Other big numbers to think about is width around about 73 inches, but one small number is, well, overall height, about 58 inches tall. And for my 6-foot+ frame, well, that is somewhat of a back-bending affair to get in, and sometimes blunt force trauma when it comes to, well, a head-banging affair. Other number to think about is ground clearance, around about 5.3 inches. So obviously this vehicle truly snugs the road. But where I see the overall liking when it comes to design is, again, the long, elegant approach to this vehicle. Obviously a wide stance. That compared to some of the other family lineups, which are a little bit more plain Jane type body lines and pretty much just good old status quo. But certainly the Arteon is, well, outside the norm when it comes to Volkswagen's typical offerings. For this particular model, the exterior color was certainly a bold choice, but once onlookers got past the wow factor, they immediately dove into the design elements, really the hard line edges all the way around this vehicle. First starting at the hood, nice raised lines here, but even the outer portions flaring out, giving this vehicle a nice wide stance. On the profile, two upper design elements I really like. Hard line here, but as it sweeps to the back, melts away into the overall window look, really just going into the design. Down low, this nice midline though picks up, really hard line all the way to the back, and there the back flares out just a hair, again providing an overall kind of wide look to this vehicle. But one big feature I like is this sculpting effect down low, with this lower flare actually chiseled into the body, really starting off narrow here, flares out towards the back. From the profile, you get the gist. This isn't straightforward sedan styling. Obviously got the 4 doors, but this elongated roofline gives it more of a coupe-like feel, and obviously the trunk yields to more of a fastback design, which obviously means no traditional offering here when it comes to access, but instead a nice hatchback-like look. Now, it all starts with a nice huge bank of glass. Again, a little bit left over for a modest lid here, but a spoiler to add a little bit of flair here at the back end. Now, as for the rest of the design, body color all the way around, nice narrow stylizing when it comes to the rear taillights, and a little bit of chrome when it comes to the various accents. Lastly is safety. No backup sensors on this particular model, but there is a backup camera. And one thing I noted was, well, it was somewhat hard to find. I obviously knew it was back here, and where it is finally located is in this area right here. Nice and kind of minimal and basically not adorning like a lot of vehicles on the road. Lastly is operation. Just simply push right here, opens with ease. Now, this particular model was the manual lift, but you can go with a power lift option. What you're going to have once it opens is around about 27 cubic feet of space. Try to compare that to your typical sedan, and well, this is far above that. Even sedans this size typically don't have this much room. Sedans this big maybe even have 16, 18 cubic feet. This one again has 27, easily almost double the amount of space in typical sedans. Basically what that means is easily a foursome hitting the golf links will find room enough for their bags, even more so with these outer niches taking longer items with ease. Now, we did find this net in the lower cargo bay. This allows you to kind of put things under it. Even more so is this is really like a pocket. There's a zipper zipper here, unzip, stick the items in. That's going to keep them from slinging around. Now below this floor is a nice spare tire should you need it. Tonneau covers can be done 100 different ways on particular models, and what I like is this particular one is nice and rigid, and you could leave it in place if you did want to put some small offering of gear up here. Now there is kind of a shelf like platform, has a nice edge, so smaller items may not roll around as easy if you did put them up here. There is some decent sturdiness to it, so can't put items that are too heavy up here, and especially when the glass lowers, obviously they're not going to be that big. Now you can remove this if you need, but what I like is the fact that it really flips out of the way, so pretty much it's not really going to be as big of a detriment or in the way as a lot of tonneau covers on the market. Now what you also find over here is some nice hooks there if you want to hang some bags or whatever you need. I talk about smart key systems and the ease ability when it comes to ingress. Now for the Arteon, the way it works is pretty much you interact with either front door. Pretty much take your hand, slide it in, unlocks that door, do it again, unlocks all the rest. What does that mean? It's pretty much the second row is not independent of the front. There is no access when you get here unless you go old school and interact with the key fob. But one thing I do like is when the vehicle is locked, so is the fill-up area. No access, just delivering the second level of security all the way around this vehicle. But if you do need to grant access, real easy. The vehicle's unlocked, really gets in with ease. Lastly, is the fill-up is a cap system. When you talk about guerrilla warfare on the Arteon, it usually is kind of an afterthought because you've already well discovered the profile. Obviously, it's exterior color, and well, you eventually get up here, you pretty much exhausted of the wow factor you've already gone over. But what I like is the guerrilla warfare on this R-line model really couples nicely with all the other accents, specifically with the two-tone approach, which you do see at the four corners, really with the nice bright chrome and the darkened glossy black accents. Now the grille is also wide, again giving to the overall width of this vehicle, giving a nice lower stance and wide dimension. Now as for airflow, you're going to see tons of airflow through the upper portions here on the side. Now there is a nice niche here on the outer portion as well. These aren't operational, but again deliver to the overall look. Now as for headlight assembly, pretty much a modest offering, but nice and sculpted with these two lens approach, and again the flare out with the chrome as well. Now body color, again, pretty much tucked in every other niche where it's applicable, but when it comes to safety up here, well, there are no parking sensors, so just be wary that, well, this lower fascia is kind of a scratch banging affair. Now it's not all about looks, it also has some performance, but it all lies underneath this clamshell style hood that really nice and wide and really wraps over those outer fenders. Now to get it lifted out of the way, there's a release right here. Simply pull it. This goes up with ease, has some nice lifts to get it up out of the way. Now what you're going to see here is a 2.0 liter inline four cylinder, turbocharged of course. Now what it's going to deliver is around about 268 horses and 258 foot-pounds of torque. Now this vehicle comes in either front-wheel drive or the as tested 4Motion all-wheel drive model. Now the engine is coupled to an 8-speed automatic transmission. The second row has to be where the Arteon really delivers, and what I'm referring to is just the overall comfort. Now naturally with this fastback design, headroom I thought was going to be a little compromised, but maybe only when I climbed inside. Once I was in, really cathedral-like feel. But where it truly is delivering is in legroom numbers. What you're going to find is almost equal, around about 41 inches in the front, 40 inches in the back. Now what I refer to this as is really a four-seater because, well, it's a little bit tight right through the middle, but that is typical of most sedans, but you could fit a third in here in a pinch. Now for these outer positions, they are nice and sculpted, sport-like seating, and really gives you nice comfort. Decent airflow on this particular model. No tri-zone system to be found here, but you do have nice dual zones up front, but nice venting here as well for backseat drivers, really independent again for the outer occupants. Truthfully, having coming off some bigger SUVs, really getting into a vehicle that only has about 5 inches of ground clearance and really only about 58 inches overall height, well, it did become a head-banging affair for me to make that transition. But once I got inside, what I truly liked is the maneuverability of the seats, really the ability to take them up and down. And again, with my tall frame, I found it to be somewhat cathedral-like once I found the right niche. Now, as for seating up front, you're going to find nice captain's chairs. Now, this is the R-Line, so you're going to see some nice sport thrown in. The whole interior really with some carbon fiber, darker leather accents, really gives a nice overall kind of cool look, which I dig because, well, the outside definitely delivers that. Minimalistic is the approach when it comes to the infotainment and climate controls, really starting with this huge touchscreen system up above. Now what I'd like is it does have some kind of motion activated option here. As you get close, it does bring up the lower functions, nice symmetric knobs here on the left and right, as well as shortcuts on the outer side. Now this particular model did not have a navigation, but obviously you can see when it is so equipped, huge viewpoint when it comes to the screen. Now down below you will find climate controls, pretty much to be straightforward in the form of these 3 knobs, dual zones on the outer side, and what I like is fan speed in this form, basically a nice knob to turn, as well as the mode selects up above. For the transmission, you'll find this nice gear shifter in the middle with a manual-like feel. You can toggle over and do shifting on the fly if you prefer. Now around it, you can obviously tell that this particular model had numerous options that didn't come with this particular model, but what you did have is different driving modes, as well as the auto stop, auto start feature, which you can kind of activate or deactivate as needed. Now between the front drivers as well, as you will find nice dual cup holders, which are hidden under this area here. Now I do like that because it makes, again, everything nice and sleek. Now your cup holders do have this nice springy option here, meaning smaller drinks will find comfort and not be slung around. Lastly is the center console, and that does have connectivity in the form of a nice USB and auxiliary jack. And one thing you will find out about the center console is it can be locked at different elevations in case you just, well, want some weird kind of elbow support. For the gauge cluster, you're going to find standard analog tach and speedometer, but a nice digital readout in the middle specifically for speed. Now the steering wheel, this one was specific for the R line and does have controls on it as well. Again, for changing the screen up above, as well as some other functionality over here on the left, cruise control, and your audio settings are going to be down below, volume and your various tune select. Now it does for this edition of Road Warrior and a test drive behind the wheel of the 2019 Volkswagen Arteon. This one being the R-Line edition, and obviously with this exterior color, really delivering a wow factor of a week. Most people really wanted to take note of the exterior color, but immediately moved past that into what this vehicle delivers. First off, sedan-like feel, but with this fastback, delivers a coupe-like atmosphere. Better yet was really the inside, giving you nice overall ergonomics. And one thing I like is this vehicle truly takes Volkswagen to the next level, getting past some of their status quo deliveries when it comes to design, and maybe chisels things up just a hair. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.